Okay, so it's late, I'm bored, and this has been in my mind for a while, so we're going to do this. Basically, this is my prediction slash what I would want from Total War Warhammer Free, whatever's left of the DLC. I have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 DLCs, essentially, with FLCs each one. That ideally, this would probably finish the job. You can argue a couple things, and that's entirely possible that they would add some FLCs in between, considering they said there are going to be much larger gaps between DLCs from now on. But I didn't include that here. These are the paid DLCs. And some of them I have ideas for what the Lords would be, some of them I don't. But, yeah. So, we know the next one is Khorne, Ogre Kingdoms, and Orcs, and Goblins, and Greenskins, essentially. So I'm assuming the Orcs and the Ogre Kingdoms are done. I'm assuming Khorne is done, unless he gets an FLC Lord somewhere. But I'm assuming all the demon factions are probably going to be 3 to 4 legendary lords. So this is sort of. So we're assuming the next one is going to be Slaanesh, High Elves, and Dark Elves, with FLC for Slaanesh. So this one would also be for Slaanesh. You would get Dyraitia the Denied One and the Mask of Slaanesh. It fits with what they've been doing. And then for High Elves, it would probably be Azelin the Sea Lord, with either the Anointed of Isurian or Korhil as a legendary hero. You could easily get both at some point. I think you might. I think you will get both as legendary heroes at some point. But for right now, I think those two are the most likely ones. Whichever one you don't get here would likely come as FLC later. And then for the Dark Elves, probably the Chosen King guy with the Assassin as with the hero. And as for Slaanesh's legendary hero, it could literally be anybody. I have no fucking clue. Because let's be real, they already have pretty much all the Slaanesh characters. Once Drychi and the Mask are at it, that kind of it. So I don't know. But, yeah. And then you get Dogs of War as a faction. Burger the Besieger, the only lord I'm sure on. The other three could be anybody. The other 2 to 3 could be anybody, with a legendary hero more than likely. And then FLC Bretonnian Lord, because Bretonnia deserves at least one more. I don't know who it would be, but there you go. And then you get Cafe versus Lizardman versus Skaven, which essentially would finish off the game 2 races. So you would have the Monkey King and Cafe get the FLC here, so you get Monkey King and Fire Dragon. I'm not going to try and pronounce the Cafe names, too difficult, but you get Teto Echo as Lizardman and you get Thankful as Skaven. And I feel like this would open up Endor Koresh. If the orcs and stuff don't, this will definitely open up Endor Koresh. It has to. And then you get Tribes of the North is what I'm usually calling this, which would be the Norskin one. I don't know who the lords would be, but you get 4 lords and a bunch of probably reskin units and 1 or 2 big monsters. That would probably be available to the Warriors of Chaos as well, just because why not? But yeah. And then you get Kislev versus Empire versus Beastman. So for this, I'm not sure who the Kislev Lord would be. The Empire Lord is either going to be the Ulrich, and you take him and Boris and make them like Vlad and Isabella, or it will be somebody else. My pick is the Reich Marshal, who Kurt Helborg. If you're not going to do the Ulrich and do the Vlad and Isabella trick. And then after that, and then they're up against the Beastmen. Gor's Warhoof, put him in, and then the Empire would get FLC. So if Kurt Helborg is not the paid DLC and it's D.R. Urich, it's Kurt Helborg. If he's the paid DLC, then you throw Maris Light Dwarf in, it's FLC. And Boris is just in there. It's made playable as well. But maybe make him playable beforehand. In a patch beforehand. And then you would get Vampire Code versus Tomb King versus Nurgle. This is the only other time I've thrown a Mono God in here. But basically, don't know who the Vampire Coast or Tomb King's Lords would be. But I'm sure someone else does. And then for Nurgle, it would be the Glockken. And either, if Gutrot Spume is not in the Northkin DLC, put him here. Otherwise, you switch that to Tomb Kings or Vampire Ghost. Otherwise, you could switch that to the Dwarves or Vampire Counts or Vampire Counts, Tomb Kings, whatever. Or you can switch the FLC slot to someone else. And then you get Bloodlines, which is the Vampire Counts. And I have an idea for this. Your lords are Neverata, Wallach Harkon, Vorag, the Ghoul King, and Zacharias the Ever-Living. And most of this is flavor. You'd have like maybe one or two big units, but most of it is flavor text, essentially. And your FLC there is Cafe, and you get the Last Dragon with them. Also, the Red Duke would be added in a patch somewhere as well. Boris and the Red Duke would be FLC, probably in between, I'd imagine. So, there you go. And then your last pack is Legions of Nagash. Nagash is going to be his own faction. You're essentially going to have 4 undead factions. That essentially adds 1 undead faction in every game. And your lords are Nagash, Aberash, Yushorin, and Wushorin. So the Everfree, so it's Nagash and the Everfree progenitors of their bloodlines. With FLC for the Wood Elves, just to add the last Wood Elf character. Because there's only one more in the 8th edition army book, you might as well add him. And I'm also assuming there'd be some FLC in between. So like, the Empire could easily get another FLC in between. The Dwarves would get an FLC somewhere. To be honest, if you want to replace Nurgle's extra FLC with a Dwarf FLC, that's fine. Oh, and then Tribes of the North, Zinch would get a DLC, and you add the last Zinch character. You add Ingram von Horseman to Zinch, finish Zinch off. There you go. To my mind, that finishes the game, pretty much. Look, would it be cool to get End, Koresh, Nippon, Araby, the Hobgoblin Khanate, all of that stuff? Yeah, it'd be cool, but let's be realistic, that's probably not happening. It probably isn't happening. Not the way they've been going, anyway. So, this is probably a fairly realistic expectation. Don't even ask me what units could be added. There's a few ideas, but that's for other people who know more than me to discuss and talk about and what all. So I will leave that to people who know better. Anyway, this has been shorter than I thought it would be. But I'm done. Ta-ta.